Hi, my name is Bob Porri, and I'm doing a number of lessons on from my website and on YouTube and everything. And I just wanted to get a lesson out there about repeated shapes on the guitar neck. You might think of it as the geometry of the guitar neck. I have other lessons out about pentatonic shapes and the octave shapes. It's pretty critical that you get down the as far as learning guitar and the guitar neck itself, that you get an understanding of the octave shapes on the guitar neck very quickly. We use what I call as EDCAG. I'm sure I picked it up from other books along the way, but the octave shapes go in the order of the acronym EDCAG, EDCAG. You may have heard this called the caged sequence. And in some ways you can start on the C, but for guitar it seems to make sense to start on the E first, because the first notes of the shape is on in position to be the first note of the minor pentatonic scale. It just kind of works out. I mean, it seems that the first scale everybody learns for soloing is the minor pentatonic, form 1, this shape here. I'm not necessarily covering all of this right now, but just quickly go through it. That's form 1. It has the octave shape E within it. Then we go up to the D shape. And the way I get to the different octave shapes is whatever the highest, I'm using my first, third, and first finger. And whatever the highest finger number is here, it's the third finger, I'm putting the first finger there. And that leads us to the next octave shape, which is the D octave shape. Again, I cover this in other lessons. Whatever the highest fretted note finger is, again here, well, let me backtrack one second. This is the shape where the form 2 of the minor pentatonic would reside, this one here. So that's the second octave shape, the D shape. Where the highest fretted note is, we put our first finger there instead of the pinky. That leads us to the next octave shape, the C octave shape. And this is where form 3 of the minor pentatonic resides. The 1-3, 1-3, 1-3 stretch to the 1-3, 1-4, 1-3 pattern is. That's quite a fun pattern too once you get that down. So the octave shape we were on there is the C shape. Highest fretted note, third finger, we put the first finger there. This is how I transition from shape to shape. You take the highest fretted note and then you put the first finger there to get to the next one. So now we get to our, that was the C shape, now we get to our A octave shape. Again, we're spelling EDCAG, so A we're on now. This is the fourth octave shape. E's the first octave shape, D's the second octave shape, C's the third octave shape, A's the fourth octave shape. And so that's the shape. This is the pentatonic scale that's up there is form 4 of the minor pentatonic. Now again, highest fretted note, we follow the same rule or whatever all the way up to get to the next octave shapes and the next pentatonic scales. So the highest fretted note is the third finger right now at the 14th fret. I'm going to put the first finger there, and that leads us to the G octave shape, and that's our 5th octave shape. Again, this wasn't necessarily a lesson to go over all this stuff. There's another point I'm trying to get to here, but I wanted to do a quick review of these, seeing we're going to be using these pretty extensively throughout this lesson about the geometry and the similarities of the shapes, the repeated patterns. So right now we're in form 5 of the pentatonic. And again, I go through a good exercise, I think, to go through these, where I do the octave shape like this, up, and then I play the pattern. The octave shape again. Then I move up to the next octave shape, highest fretted note, put the first finger there instead. Then we play the whole pattern, form 2. fretted note to get to the next pattern. It's a C octave shape, form 3 now. Highest fretted note, put the first finger there, get to the next octave shape. That's form 4 of the minor pentatonics. Highest fretted note, put the first finger there, get to our 5th octave shape, our G octave shape, and our form 5 of the minor pentatonic. Okay, what I really was after covering in this lesson, again, if that's boring review to you, sorry about that, but I just kind of wanted to lay the background of this for what we're going to be using to do this. It took me a whole bunch of years of playing. I've been playing for like 50 years now, and there's a repeated pattern that occurs because of the nature of the setup of the guitar strings, the relationships. It gets a little bit messed up because of the second string, but we deal with it. Meaning that the second string is tuned. Well, we tune all the other strings to the 5th fret. When we get to the second string, we know we go down to the 4th fret to tune it, and back up to the 5th fret. So things change a little bit when you're going through this stuff, and you have to make accommodations at times for the second string. You got to move up a fret to kind of counteract it being tuned lower. But anyways, what I'm getting to here is there's a repeated pattern that happens within the pentatonic scales, and you'll find this in the major scales and the minor scales also, and I'll go through those in another lesson. What we have, there's basically two things that keep happening over and over and over again on these pentatonic scales, and what it is that there's a pair of strings where you use a 1-4, where there's a minor third distance, a 1-4, and then a 1-4 again. It doesn't happen like this on the first form 1, so that's why I'm just kind of talking about it now, but it'll become clear as I think as we go further into this. So there's this 1-4 on one string, and then on 1-4 for fingering on the very next string, a minor third and a minor third relationship directly across from each other that happens as you go through these scales. That's one pattern. Then the other pattern is there's a 1-3-1-3-1-3 pattern. Now the 1-3-1-3-1-3 you can see clearly in form 1 of the pentatonic. So if you go to the second string, so I'm sorry, the 5th string, the second string you get to when you do the A minor pentatonic form 1. So we're leaving off this for now. We're going to talk about that later. But if you go to this part here where you're actually on the 4th degree, the perfect 4th from the roots, the A, so you're on a D here, the 5th fret of the 5th string. We have this pattern here that comes up. It's for fingering. It's 1-3-1-3-1-3, and they're one fret in between the frets you're on. It's a major second interval. So that's the second pattern. So this pattern happens. So you have a 1-3-1-3-1-3, that relationship, a whole step between a note to note, whole step interval. The other pattern that happens, I had mentioned earlier, was the minor third, and we can see that happening on the 2nd and 1st string of form 1, where we have 1st finger, 4th finger, and then 1st finger, 4th finger again. So these two patterns, this 1-3-1-3-1-3 and this 1-4-1-4, are really the only two patterns that continuously happen throughout all of the pentatonic scales, all 5 forms. Again, it took me years to just kind of to kind of hit me that this is what's going on, and it may have been told to me years ago, and it just didn't sink in or something. But I just found this very, very interesting. That it was kind of an aha kind of moment, and hopefully this helps some of you in that same way. So you have the 1 and 4th finger distance, which is a minor third, and the 1 and 3 finger distance, which is a major second. There's 2 of the minor third intervals that happen, and there's 3 of the major second intervals that happen. So 2 of the 1/4s and 3 of the 1/3s. This first thing you encounter on form 1 of the minor pentatonic, this 1/4, frets 5 and 8, is the second of that occurrence of the minor third interval. All right. If we had a 7th string on the guitar, you would have seen that 1/4 on the bottom, and then you'd see the second 1/4 as this one here. We'll actually see it like that in form 4 of the minor pentatonic. We'll get to that in a few minutes. So what we have is the second of the 1/4s. Then we have the 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 pattern. Then we have the 1/4, 1/4 pattern. The second of the 1/4 patterns, I'm talking fingers here, the minor third distance pattern. The second one is the E string. When we go to the bottom string, that's also the E string. So really you're just taking the second occurrence of that, the 1/4 pattern, and you're putting it on the low string. When we go up to form 2 of the minor pentatonics, so now I'm on the 8th fret with the second finger, this here, this second finger and 4th finger that you begin form 2 with, is the third occurrence of the 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 pattern. I'm going to keep calling these the 1/4, 1/4 patterns and the 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 patterns, and you can refer to form 1 to kind of see what I'm talking about with that. So the 1/4 for fingers and then the 1/3s, even though we may be using different fingers to do those patterns. So again, the 1/3s are a major second interval and the 1/4s are a minor third interval. But I'm going to just call them the 1/4 patterns and the 1/3 patterns, and I'm talking about fingerings when I do that. So when we go up to form 2, when we use our second finger and 4th finger, that's really the 1/3 pattern, I'm going to say, right? So that's the third of the occurrence of the 1/3 pattern there that you're hitting on the bottom string. Again, you'd need 2 other strings below the low string to see the pattern happen 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. So really this is the third time it happens. The next string you get to, the 5th string, you're going to do the 1/4 pattern twice, because it always happens twice in a row. So we have 1/4, 1/4. When you move on to the 3rd string, we have the 1/3 pattern. You can see it. Now when we get to the 1/3 pattern, it's going to happen 3 times in a row. So we have 1/3. I can go up a fret and go 1/3, 1/3, but usually we use 1/3, then we're going to say second finger, 4th finger, second finger, 4th finger. So really that 1/3, 2/4, 2/4 pattern of form 2 is really 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. That last 1/3 you get to is the same 1/3 that you begin the scale with, because again, you have an E string on top and an E string on the bottom. Okay, when we move on to form 3, the pattern's a little bit more obvious, because we can see the 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 happening immediately. So we have the 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. This is form 3 of the minor pentatonics. So again, that 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 happens there. So what's going to come up next? Well, the 1/4, 1/4 is going to happen next. So we get it by, we actually have to go down 1 fret to get to the first 1/4, then we move up a fret to get to the other 1/4. But we've still seen that major second, major second, major second, or 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, and then the minor third interval. You saw that major second 3 times, the 1/3s 3 times, and now you're going to see the minor third interval, the 1/4 patterns, 2 times. And what's going to happen next? The 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 will happen next. So the first 1/3 is the first string here at the 10th and 12th fret. So that's the first 1/3. If we take that 1/3 there, which was the first one, and move it down to the low string, again, E string up here, E string on the bottom, that's the first 1/3. That's why we had the beginning of the 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 down there on the 6th string on form 3. When we move up to form 4, this one's quite obvious also. This one begins right on the minor third intervals, the 1/4, 1/4. So again, 2 1/4s. If we had a 7th string, it would have been a 1/3, but we don't. So we're on the 6th string. So we have 1/4, 1/4. So that's one of the patterns. And what's going to come up next? Well, there's going to be 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3 patterns, 3 major second patterns. So when we move on to the fourth string, we have 1, 3, 1, 3. Then when we move on to the second string, we have to go up a fret. We're compensating for the tuning of the second string, but you still have that 1, 3 again. If we play it in position, we really use the second and fourth finger for that. And then after, so we've done 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3 on the fourth string, 12th fret, 14th fret, third string, 12th fret, first finger, 14th fret, third finger. And then I'm going to just use my second and fourth finger, but it's that 1, 3 pattern again, that minor second interval. I'm sorry, major second interval. So that's the third occurrence of that. So we've had the three 1, 3s happen. So what's going to happen next? Well, there's going to be 2 1, 4s for fingering pattern, which is 2 minor third intervals. So when we move on to the first string, we get to the first 1, 4 pattern, or the minor third interval. Again, that's the E string, the bottom string is an E string. So when we go down to here, this is the first occurrence, the 1, 4, the minor third pattern. That's the first occurrence on the first string. It's the same first occurrence you get to when you play the sixth string. So that's one of those, another one of those. Then there's 3 1, 3s. Then there's the first of the 1 4s, the minor third interval. When we move up to form 5, we have 2 1, 3, 1, 3 patterns. So really, when we start form 5, we're starting on the second of the 1, 3 patterns of the minor second. I keep saying minor second. It's major second patterns. If we had a 7th string on the guitar, you would see that 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3 happening 3 times in a row. But because we don't have the extra string, we're really seeing it starting on the second occurrence of the 1, 3. So we have 1, 3, 1, 3. Again, I'm using fingers 2 and 4, because that's what I usually do for form 5 when I play it in position. I could go up to 1, 3, 1, 3 and use the 1, 3 fingers. And again, it's a major second interval. Said it right that time. So you have 1, 3, 1, 3. Then if that's the third 1, 3, again, there would have been another one on a 7th string if there was a 7th string. What happens after that? We get to the 1, 4. We get to the 1, 4s, the minor third intervals. So you have 2 of those. After that, we're compensating for the second string. We go up a fret, but we have the first of the 1, 3 patterns, or the major second patterns. Then the second one. And again, this is the second one, and we saw it happen up there. And we know that this is an E string, the first string is an E string, and the sixth string is an E string. So if that's the second occurrence of the 1, 3, this is why this was the second occurrence of the 1, 3 that we began with on the bottom. So again, when we go through these, I'm going to go through these one more time. The 1, 4 happens, that's the second occurrence of the 1, 4 on form 1. Then we have 3 1, 3s. Then we get the 2 1, 4s. Again, we're always going to see 3 1, 3s and 2 1, 4s, and then it's going to go back to the 1, 3s. When we go into form 2, minor pentatonic, this is the third 1, 3 we encounter there. Then we have 2 1, 4s. Then we have 3 1, 3s. When we go on to form 3, minor pentatonic, from the 10th fret, we have 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3. That's really nice to see that right there like that, because it's, you know, it's the 3 1, 3s, and it's, you don't have to do less than the full number of them, so you can see that really good there. So 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3. Then you're going to have 2 1, 4s. So you have this 1, 4 and this 1, 4. Then there's going to be 3 1, 3s. This is the first of the 1, 3s. And again, we repeat that first of the 1, 3s when we go to the same E string down here. That's why that was the first one of them. When we go to form 4, again, another nice one to see, because you see that 1, 4 happening immediately. So you have 1, 4, 1, 4. Then we have 3 1, 3s. So that was 2 1, 4s. Then you have 3 1, 3s. Then you have the 1, 4 again. That's the first of the 1, 4s. That's why when we transfer it to the low E string to E string, it's the first of the 1, 4. So you have the second 1, 4 when you begin the pattern. When you go to form 5, This is the second of the 1/3s. So now we get to two 1/4s we need to do. Then we get to the first of the 1/3s. And that's the second 1/3 up there. Again, transferring E string to E string. That's why this was the second 1/3 that you begin on form 5. Hopefully that, as you go through that and study that a little bit, you can get a lot out of just realizing the similarities of these shapes. It's helped me quite a bit when I realized that these patterns, really just appear over and over and over again. And again, something very similar happens with the major scales also. And I'll be going through those in another lesson soon. So again, hopefully this helps out. And again, this is all about the similarities of the patterns of the minor pentatonics. This will hold true for the major pentatonics also. And these are the versions of the pentatonics that are 2 notes per string, the standard 5 box forms that you usually encounter when you're first learning guitar. I have lessons on teaching these if you look those up. My website, bobporri.com. There's a bunch of teaching lessons and videos available, jam tracks, lots of things like that. I have working on a full year project of posting a lick a day and a lesson a day, so you can check those out too. I have a page for those on my website with tablature for them and everything like that. I cover a number of different styles in that also, so if you encounter something that's not your cup of tea, then jump ahead to one of the other ones, and hopefully I'm hitting a lot of different topics, everything from blues to rock to metal to acoustic, and I'll be getting to all this stuff during the course of those 365 lesson licks that I'm doing. So again, hopefully this is helpful, and just again, watch for these similarities, and it really helps you know where you are. You have these 2 repeating patterns. You have this minor third pattern that happens twice in the pentatonics, and you have the major second that happens 3 times. And for every one of the basic box forms, form 1 through 5 of the minor pentatonics and the major pentatonics, you'll see this pattern happening over and over and over again. And if you don't realize it, maybe I just missed something when I first started out or whatever, but this has been when it was added to my vocabulary of understanding of how these forms and shapes work, it was a great aid in connecting the forms and just kind of getting your bearings and your landmarks in terms of where you are within the forms. So good luck with that, and again, hopefully that's helpful to some people out there. And take care, and we'll see you next time.